in 16th century Europe. I mean, just think about that.
Let me see if a miracle happened tonight. It's a test. And I think it's a good way to end our discussion before we go to the questions. When we were arriving earlier, there was a couple, two women, with a sign saying, "We're atheists looking for a miracle. Are there any extra tickets?" If you're in the audience, could you shout out? Hey, a miracle happened.
Is that true?
Well, we're very happy you made it. Okay, there we go. Proof in miracles.
Great.
So, I think that's probably a good point for us to stop and open the floor to questions now.
And I'm here to field questions. We have some microphones in the audience. Number 1, 2, 3 down here, 4, 5, and 6. If you do have a question for our conversationist, can I encourage you to make a question and one that is relatively brief and easy to understand, just in case they can't hear you and I have to repeat it. So you need to be kind. But we do also have some questions that while we're waiting for those of you who have questions to come down, we do also have some questions that people sent in, and I'd like to start with one from Sam, which is for Richard Dawkins, I would assume. You suggest that we have a constant source of beauty and awe in science, and that this is more real and thus valuable than religion. That's easy for a brilliant Oxonian professor to say, but where does it leave people who find scientific thinking impossibly difficult?
Scientific thinking is not impossibly difficult. The sort of thinking that Lawrence Krauss does is impossibly difficult. But actually, when you just think about what science can offer you, when you think about just going out and looking at the southern hemisphere sky and just reflecting on what you're seeing, what you're seeing is billions of stars, which are all different distances, and that means that the light that you're watching left those stars at radically different times. When you look at the Milky Way, which is especially good in the southern hemisphere, you're looking at the galaxy in which you stand. But that's one of billions of galaxies. And that's not difficult to understand. That's just marvelous to understand. It's poetic to understand. It deserves to have symphonies and oratorios performed in this concert hall about it. But it's not that difficult. When you contemplate your own body and think of the number of cells of which you're made, and when you think of the complexity of each one of those cells, when you think that if you took all the nerve cells in your body and stretched them end to end, they would go round the world. I forget how many times, but it's at least 20. These are facts which are easy to look up and easy to understand and utterly mind-blowing and not difficult.
Yeah, I have been known to answer questions for Richard. And as a non-Oxonian, I think I'm allowed to. I come from Arizona where there isn't any culture. I think it is, in fact, we've talked about the poetry of reality, but for many people, the value of science is technology. And of course, it has produced the world we live in. We couldn't have this event tonight if it weren't for science. But actually, for me, the greatest value of